Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 203. We are conducting a Canadian Whisky Tournament with 5 of the most basic, common, 80-proof Canadian whiskies. Coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas, where it is currently 29 degrees on February 20th, 2025, but this morning it was 12, hence the fur hat when I went to work. Now this is match number 5. It's in the Challengers bracket. Black Velvet is the challenger. It was not in the original 4. Usually when you conduct the tournament, you like to have an even number. This was my 5th choice for the tournament, and started out challenging the overall loser of the top 4 whiskeys, and that was Crown Royal. Canadian Club 1858 had defeated Canadian Mist in round number 1. Seagram's VO beat Crown Royal also in that first round. So in the losers bracket of Mist versus Crown, in a stunning upset, Mist won. And that is when Black Velvet entered the tournament, challenging the loser, Crown Royal Fine Deluxe. And Velvet won easily, which means that Crown Royal is the ultimate loser in this little contest, and that was very surprising. I really kind of thought initially it was going to be Canadian Club and Crown for the championship between those 4. When I brought Black Velvet into the contest, I thought, well, Black Velvet's got a chance of winning this because I remembered liking Black Velvet. So tonight, since Black Velvet has beaten the loser, Crown, it's now going to challenge Canadian Mist, the 3rd place whiskey in the original 4. Now the rules. I look at the history of each whiskey a little bit, and then we examine the bottles and labels, the marketing. I compare the appearance of the whiskeys in the bottle because I am using blacked out Glencairns. And then we do the nosing and the tasting. The contest is really decided on the taste, the mouthfeel, the burn, the finish. The bottom line is, if I was offered these 2 whiskeys 5 nights in a row, which whiskey would I choose 3 out of the 5 nights? That's how I'm doing it. And so it's pretty simple. Now, in case of a tie, and in other tournaments I have had a tie, the price, value, and availability will help determine the winner. Now, along the way, just for fun, I try to guess which whiskey is which in these blacked out glasses. So, on to the contestants. We'll start with Black Velvet. Coming in at 80 proof, aged for 3 years, as the bottle says, or if you go to the website, which is very confusing, you total up what it says, and it's 11 years. I think maybe what they mean is that some of the casks may be 11 years old. I'm not sure. But according to the bottle, this is blended at birth. And this Canadian whiskey dates from, depending on which source you use, 1951, 1949, or 1946. Black Velvet originally was produced at Shinley Distillery in Valleyfield, Quebec, but now comes to us from Lethbridge, Alberta, but it is currently owned by Heaven Hill since 2019, I think, 2020. This whiskey is aged in new charred oak barrels, the website says, which is like bourbon. But the way they do whiskey in Canada breaks the bourbon rules, so you can't call it bourbon, and bourbon is a U.S. trademark anyway. Now, part of the story behind Black Velvet, if you go look at other reviews, if you go to Wikipedia, not the website, but if you go to Wikipedia, what you're going to see in multiple locations about this is somewhere along the line they're going to say, this whiskey was serving on submarines in the Navy, and it doesn't specify whose Navy, at some point, and they even get specific and say it was on the submarines at the Battle of Midway. Okay, I doubt this because Battle of Midway was 1942. And this whiskey, the earliest date for it is 1946. So somebody somewhere started a story and it's just rolled, and several reviewers online passed that story on. But moi happens to study military history, and it's like, no. Not to mention the fact that I don't think there was any Canadian submarines at the Battle of Midway. So you know, take it for what it's worth. I don't think that story is accurate at all in any way, shape, or form. Now, bringing it to more current history, this whiskey has won 3 medals recently in 2023. Gold at the John Barleycorn Awards. That's impressive. Best Canadian Whiskey at the Ascot Awards. Well, that's pretty impressive. And Consumer Choice at the SIP Awards. So, you know, it's got some medals behind it. Prices, Total Wine has a 1.75 liter for $16.99. Goody Goody, where I bought mine, the 750 is at $10.59. Specs, the 750 is at $10.94. I reviewed this whiskey 3 years ago, and I rated it as an 80 points and B+ for drinkability. So, on to Canadian Mist. It comes from Collingwood, Ontario, where the distillery was built in 1968 by Barton specifically to craft a whiskey for Americans with a corn base and rye for flavor plus some malted barley. This brand is currently owned by Sazerac, but it was bounced around a little bit. Weighing in at 80 proof and no age statement, which means 3 years old in Canada. This whiskey cost $11.99 for a 750 plastic bottle. So Goody Goody's $11.99, Total Wine $17.99 for a 1.75, and Specs for $11.46. In the tournament, this whiskey lost in the first round to Canadian Club 1858, and then it proceeded to beat Crown Royal. I still don't know how that happened. In my review, I gave this whiskey a total score of 66 and a C+ for drinkability. Those are the whiskeys. So, Black Velvet's going to win points for history, even though it's a little convoluted history. Bottle, label, and marketing, clearly Black Velvet wins that. I mean, there is some utility to a plastic jug, you know, if you're going to take it camping or something, but just for class, the label and the bottle of Black Velvet's very nice. And appearance, you can see that Velvet's a little bit darker than Canadian Mist. But what does that mean? I mean, you know, if you can add coloring, who knows? But so bottle, label, and marketing Black Velvet, appearance Black Velvet. Now it's time to enter the actual contest here. Let's nose. I'll start with my left. And my nose is inadequate for the task. Barely a little sweetness, a little grain. That's about it. This one's got a little bit more of a nose. Something stronger. Sweet, but spicy. Yeah, so the one on the right wins the nose contest, which means I will start tasting with the one on the left. Now, Black Velvet has the number 1 on the bottom, and Canadian Mist has the number 2. That's nice and sweet. A little bit of corn, a little bit of maple, some spice, a little bit of wood. All right, that first sip was pretty good. I tend to think that was number 1, Black Velvet. But we got to taste number 2 to be sure. Oh, wow. Okay, I tend to think that was the Mist. I think that was number 2. See, the Mist is creeping up on me. It's like when I bought this bottle, I was not impressed. And when I was just kind of reviewing it, it's like, man, this is nothing. But it surprised me by beating Crown. And this sip here is really pretty decent. That's just weird. I'm getting more wood with this. A little bit less sweet. But I think that's missed. All right, this will be the decisive sip. This may be harder than I thought. It was really easy going against Crown. Black Velvet won that one handily. Wow. This is very close. And that surprises me. This is, by taste, mouthfeel, finish. I really thought Black Velvet was going to win this hands down. These are so close. I'm not sure I can tell which is which. I'm going to guess and say the one on the left is number 1, Black Velvet. But as far as determining a winner, I think I'm going to have to say a tie. Dang. Those are just too close. I did not expect that. Well, if I declare a tie, then it's going to go down to the price. But the mouthfeel, burn, finish, the taste on both of these is so similar. All right, I'm officially declaring a tie, but I think the one on the left is Black Velvet. Should be a number 1. It is, in fact, number 1. So at least I was able to identify, but I mean, that was so close. So if it's a tie, then I've got to go with the price, and Black Velvet wins on the price. The availability is about the same. I see Canadian Mist everywhere. I see Black Velvet everywhere. Clearly the history, the label, the bottle, the marketing of Black Velvet. I mean, Black Velvet's had a lot of cool advertisements in the past. Canadian Mist, just haven't seen any. So I am going to declare Velvet by price, the tiebreaker. All right. Well, that's really surprising. I thought Velvet was going to run away with it, and it did not. It was very close. So let me pause this and do a cocktail with the winner. That's the prize for the winner. So stand by. Okay, I am back, and I have made an old-fashioned using black velvet and some bitters. I used maple syrup, so this is a maple velvet old-fashioned, and I've got some orange and some orange peel in there and a cherry, some ice. So here we go with the black velvet maple old-fashioned. And that is actually pretty darn good. Maybe could have added a touch more bitters because it's on the sweet side. Black velvet's sweet anyway. But that's a good cocktail right there. Now here's the funny thing. While I was making the cocktail, the doorbell rang. I had ordered some whiskey online and it was going to require a signature, and sure enough, UPS showed up at my door, and I've got Devil's Brigade whiskey right here. So I don't know much about this. I got an advertisement for it not long ago. It says it's distilled in Montana and Canada, and the company is owned by some veterans. And Devil's Brigade is a famous precursor to Special Forces, Rangers, all that back in World War II. And it was comprised of Canadians and Americans, volunteers. So it was very much like a Ranger unit, Special Forces unit. This is a whiskey, not a bourbon, because it's got Canadian in here. So anyway, this came while I'm making the video about another Canadian whiskey, Black Velvet. So how cool is that? The timing there was just amazing. Okay, now last time I had mentioned that the next video was going to be a Texas whiskey to celebrate the Battle of the Alamo, but then this cold snap hit Fort Worth, and it was like 10 degrees, 12 degrees in the mornings going to work. And so I thought, I have to do another Canadian whiskey tournament video while this cold weather is here, because by this weekend it's going to be 70 degrees or whatever. So at any rate, next week I will do some Texas whiskey to celebrate the Battle of the Alamo, and then Texas Independence Day is March 2nd, so I'll have to do a Texas whiskey around then, but I'm going to be traveling that weekend, so it may be later in the week before I can do that. But for now, this is Stab the Dragon, and we have a winner, Black Velvet, over Canadian Mist, but it was so close, it was a tie, and the price had to determine the winner, and so Black Velvet won on price. This is Stab the Dragon, out here.